Why don't you move to a different country? Why are you staying here? Young 10-year-old, very intelligent-looking young lady, a black young lady, who will not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in her classroom. She doesn't want to stand up because apparently she believes that black Americans need a lot more to be done in this country. You know what I believe, Quanel? And I know you supported her publicly. I think at 10 years old, she has no real understanding of what America is. So I wonder if her parents have sat her down and explained what Americans have given their lives. White, black, red. It doesn't make any difference. They stood and they fought and they died for this country, and she doesn't want to do anything to honor them?
Man, she comes from a family of military service members. Her father's is a retired military service member also, who served this nation well with great dignity.
Good.
Her mother's a very intelligent woman. What white people need to understand
Just white people?
Yes, please, let me explain. That national anthem was written by Francis Scott Key, a slave owner.
Oh, here we go.
Who demonized and hated black slaves and black people. Go research the 3rd verse where he says, "There's no refuge in this country for the hireling or the slave. Both should be turmoil to the grave."
How's her parents do it?
This is a man
Are they successful?
that promised turmoil for black people to the grave. Would you ask Jewish children to say a pledge to a German anthem that disrespects Jewish people?
If they're
No, you
living
would
in
not.
Germany,
No,
sure.
you would not.
Well, sure.
That disrespects Jewish people?
Then
No,
why?
you would not.
You certainly can kneel down. In America, you have the right to do that.
America looked at the same way at Rosa Parks when she refused to get up and give up her seat to a white man on the bus. But history vindicated her. History vindicated her. America demonized Harriet Tubman for freeing slaves from slavery, but history vindicated her. So I say to that young girl, you stand strong, stand up, and stand for what you believe in. And to all of those who are too coward to do it, don't get in that young girl's way. Others like her, support that young girl.
What would you like her to say to the men and women who have fought for this country like I ran into over the weekend? The black men and women who fought for this country, and some who gave their lives.
And ask the black men and women who served America in its military, like in the Independence War. We helped America get it, and we were still slaves afterwards. Ask those in Vietnam who gave their war on Vietnam battlefields, but then came back and was called niggers in their own country. We have fought in America's war, and we've never been given the justice and the due process of everybody else in this nation.
So why don't you move to a different country? Why are you staying here if you don't like it?
Let me tell you why. Because the country belongs to Indians. You white folks stole it from them, raped and robbed their people. This not your country. You all came over here and stole it and beat the hell out of them. So this not your country.
It was my country.
You all need to go home.
If you're
you all need to go back where you came from.
If you don't like it, why don't you pack up and go?
Let the Indians decide who should pack up and go. And I guarantee you black folks will stay, and you all will be on the first damn boat leaving here. So don't try that, brother. You all didn't make America. This is not your country.
What you should do is sit down with someone who has fought for this country, Quanel. Get their opinion too.
Tons of black people have, and what have we gotten from it?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Kisaka. In today's video, we'll be exploring a viral moment where a white person deeply regretted their words after a heated exchange involving a well-known activist, Quanel X. I'll use this moment to unpack bigger truths about history, identity, and who really belongs in this land we call America. But before I come back with more commentary, kindly look at these videos. Look at the situation, that how it unfolded, and also the reactions from different people before we come back. Kindly maintain decorum on the comment section, and remember these videos are for education and entertainment purposes only.
I am cancer-free, and I want to thank everybody that has prayed for me, that has come up to me and been so kind to me. And you know what? The immigrant-free day. I think about these individuals. You know something? When you do what I did, when you work hard, when you do what you're told, when you go where you're supposed to go, and you pray to God, then good things happen. If one day you decide you're going to do none of those things, then what may happen is exactly what happened to these so-called immigrants, many of them illegal, who decided not to go to work a particular day to somehow get across some kind of message. They get fired the next day. Welcome to America.
Matt, you know, I am happy that you're in remission. To God be the glory. But it is amazing how you could beat cancer and be in remission and your heart still be so cold and hard. It is amazing how you would speak that way about immigrants when you call them so-called immigrants. You're right, they're so-called immigrants.
Summarily.
Because they're only coming back home. Texas, Arizona, and California were stole from the Mexicans. So they're so-called immigrants because they're coming back home. And when you speak about if you work hard and do the right thing and be good to people, well, guess what? That's not the history or the legacy of your ancestors.
You got to come through the front door.
White folk didn't come through the front door. White folk kicked open the back door and killed everything else in between to conquer America.
Well, why do you,
they were not good to people that they met. They didn't show hospitality to the Indians.
You're trying to avoid what we're talking about.
They didn't do that.
Here.
They weren't hospitable.
You're trying to avoid what we're talking about here, and you're going to go back 200-300 years.
What I'm trying to do.
Why don't we talk about what's taking place over the weekend?
What I'm trying to do is try to tell white people like you, stop throwing rocks at the immigrants when you all live in a glass house. You all didn't come to America the right way or the godly way.
Yes, you do. You do the things the correct way. And in 2017, the correct thing to do is come through the front door. And these are people that snuck into this country. And so we're all supposed to allow that to happen? That's not how it works. You're not going to get what you're looking for. And you got to work. You got to come through the front door. I understand that.
I'm saying they should not have to sneak back into a territory that the legacy of that territory belonged to their own people. But let's just say for the sake of the law, they broke the law. Okay, I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, brother, where is the human compassion that the ancestors of Indians showed your community? You all won't show that to nobody else. But you want it all showed to you.
Let's stay in America. There was no America back, what you're talking about. You're taking something and trying to turn it into something that it's not. Let's talk about the rules and the laws that exist in the United States of America.
This is America, but America the beautiful has been America the ugly toward too many people of color. And all we want is the same thing you all enjoy, the complexion for the protection.
Well, I tell you what,
all got in America. We don't have that.
Do that when somebody crosses your property line and wants to come into your home and sit down in your living room and eat out of your refrigerator without ever asking you or without being a member of your family.
All the immigrants are not doing that. So stop that, brother. That's a hype. That's a lie, and it's racist, man.
It's not a hype. It's exactly what they want.
They're not all doing that.
That Fox 26 interview with Quanel was not about the little black girl who did not want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. That debate was about who gets to belong and who doesn't. Because Quanel explained calmly and historically why a little black child may not want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, or the national anthem for that matter. He explained how the man who wrote that anthem was a slave owner who despised black people. He explained how black soldiers fought, bled, and then came home to a country that still called them slurs, still denied them the same freedoms they went and fought for those white people to have. He explained that freedom in America has always come with an asterisk for us. And so what did that white man do? He interrupted, he overtalked, he continued to dodge accountability, and then he pulled the oldest card in the book. Well, if you don't like it, why don't you just leave? And that question right there is the tell. Because white Americans cannot fathom why black and brown people will criticize a country that we still stay in. And that is because white Americans' nationalism is their identity, not principles. See, black, brown, and indigenous people have peoplehood. We have lineage, we have memory, we have culture that's older than the American flag. Our identity exists with or without America. And white Americans don't have that. Because remember, most of them were not nobles. They were not royalty. They were Europe's cast-offs, criminals, rapists, debtors, and the violently poor that were exported to stolen land. The society that put them on the bottom of the hierarchy rid themselves of them and then shipped them here where they built up a hierarchy that put them at the top. They invented whiteness to cling to. They invented something that gave them a sense of identity, something they could invent that made them think they were superior, and indoctrinated everyone else by threat of violence and force and death to believe that what they were inventing was true. They wrapped their entire self-worth in a nation that they felt that they could finally dominate. And that is why they cling to that flag, to the anthems, to the pledge, because that's all they have. So when we say, hey, this country harms us, they don't hear a call to repair. They instead hear a threat to their identity. When Quanel told him all the reasons why black people believe that we should not have to stand up for an anthem or pledge our allegiance to a country that's never put us anywhere but at the bottom, that white man said, well, then why don't you leave? Because they hear a threat to their identity, that's why the solution is always for us to leave. But here's the part they choke on, just like Quanel said. This country ain't theirs. This country was stolen from indigenous people, built by enslaved Africans, and maintained by exploited labor. We didn't come here chasing some dream. Our ancestors were brought here in chains. So don't ask us why we stay. Ask yourselves why you won't leave. I believe they will not leave because deep down they know that this nation, this country, this America is the only thing standing between them and finding out who they really are, the type of people they really come from. And that's why a black child choosing to sit down for the Pledge of Allegiance threatens you, terrifies you, because it's not disrespectful, it's honest. Black people's relationship with white people in America has been one of narcissistic abuse, and it's just like a narcissist to say, don't talk about all the ways in which I hurt you. Congratulate me for giving you the smallest bit. Tell me how great I am. Don't look too closely about the wrongs I've done because that didn't happen. Just like a narcissist.
Why don't you move to a different country? Why are you staying here?
Tell me why they ask us, why don't we leave when they brought us here? Right? I didn't ride over here on a boat because we wanted to. Our family was brought here out of no goodwill and used as slaves. And on top of that, to this day, people still fight like this white man on the screen talking about how, well, why don't you leave? Well, why don't we all stop the hate? Because that's all this is. To have any kind of disregard for a different race, you purely and basically are saying, I'm dumb. Because what do you mean? Different cultures are beautiful. Different ethnicities are beautiful. Even the white people.
He was talking bad about Mexicans, and he got put in his place.
Governor Greg Abbott wants to make sure that Houston, the city of Houston, is put under the same microscope as any city that isn't allowed legally to be the quote-unquote sanctuary city. And this is what we do here in the city of Houston. People come into the city of Houston illegally. They're allowed to stay. There is only so much that our law enforcement officers are willing to do, that the DEA is willing to do, that the border agents are willing to do. Why in the world don't we go after those that are here? Well, that's what Abbott wants to change, and I agree. And as soon as we make sure that in the state of Texas, if Houston keeps conducting itself the same way that San Antonio and other cities conduct themselves, then no money is coming to Houston from the state. We need to do that on a state level. We also need to do it on a federal level.
But Matt, my problem with this is, why are we so worried about getting rid of all of the Mexicans or Hispanics that are quote unquote here, if they're illegal or not? At the end of the day, many of them are paying taxes. Many of them have been here for generations and decades. And Matt, trying to get rid of 4 or 5 or 3 million people all at once is not going to work. We don't have the resources.
We don't have to do it all.
And secondly, Matt, listen, there is no such thing as an illegal Mexican immigrant coming into Texas, because they're only coming home. Texas, Arizona, and California was stole from the Mexicans.
Don't start
this
that
all
nonsense.
belongs to them. So they're only coming home, and then here it is, you white folks stole the land from the Indians, but yet you're the natural, real illegal immigrant.
So let's start with the things you said that are already wrong. First of all, they're coming here, they're not paying any taxes. You're telling me they're paying taxes? They're not paying taxes.
Matt,
because nobody
they
knows
are
who the
paying
heck they are. No, they're not
Matt.
paying any taxes.
Matt, when they buy a product, they paying a tax on it.
Let's continue.
When they buy a car, they paying a tax on it.
You come into this country illegally. That is a law that you're breaking. And that's why they have to be sent back to wherever they came from. They want to come through the front door. That is the correct way to come in. And the city of Houston has to stop allowing this, or we're never going to get them to stop coming in here. Look,
Matt,
that's what we got to do. Follow the law.
But Matt, where is the compassion that the indigenous Indians had for white people in this country?
What do you keep going backwards?
They let you all come in.
What are you going
and
backwards?
You came in and raised a whole lot of hell.
Don't start.
Trump
Don't start
called
bringing up
Mexicans
history and try and
rapists. He
explain
called
what's
them
going on
criminals.
today.
Trump called the Mexicans illegal criminals coming into America. Well, the biggest illegal criminal ever coming to America was white people.
So you don't give a damn
So,
if people break
no.
into this country?
I don't give a damn.
I wonder what's going to happen when they come rob your house.
I don't give a damn about hypocrites. immigrants who came here illegally and stole all of this and now want to blame them before only coming back home. To all of the Mexicans, don't worry about this. Just keep having babies, and in 30 years, all these white folks will be under your control.
To Americans, let's stand up and do what the hell we're supposed to do and stop letting the city of Houston be an open door. This ain't no sanctuary city.
Don't listen to that.
This is a real city.
Just keep having.
I think this is a fantastic law. It is time to start enforcing the laws that are on the books instead of the state and local officials legislating from their own little tiny offices.
It's an awful law because it's nothing more than a legal way for law enforcement to racially profile Mexicans and Hispanics. I would say to the Hispanic and Mexican community, what you got to do now, hook up with the black community and unite in political power, because if Mexicans and black people unite in Texas, we can control the governor, we can control the lieutenant governor, and we can control politics in Texas, period. I'm saying to Latino brothers and sisters, don't fight them by yourself. If you hook up with black people and we unite, I'm telling you, we can run Texas and then pass laws to deal with those who hate us.
You're advocating for criminal activity, Quanel. These people are not here lawfully. They need to do what our ancestors did, what many Mexicans have done.
Well, no, wait a minute.
Many, don't interrupt me.
Your ancestors came here illegally. Wasn't nothing legal about your ancestors.
Listen.
They came illegally and they murdered, they raped, they pillaged a whole race of people. This country, Texas, Arizona, and California, belongs to the Mexicans.
Quanel, get back
it was
to the
stole from them.
You tell me to get back to the point.
They came here illegally.
No, you're not being fair to me here. You say stay on topic. I say, okay, we'll stay on topic. And then as soon as we start talking about illegal immigration, you go back to the black issue. Let's stay on topic.
Your ancestors are the master illegal immigrants.
Give me the opportunity to respond in that, you know what, we're all Americans here. And if you are here legally, absolutely, then we need to come together and we need to pass good laws for enforcing the laws.
Well, perhaps the Native Americans should have passed laws against your ancestors.
Hey, white folk, class is in session. White folk, let's be honest. Have you ever said the words to some black person, go back to Africa? If you don't like it here, go back to Africa. I'm going to explain to you why that is truly an ignorant statement and why it does not offend us. It really makes you look dumb. And I'm going to tell you the history why. Okay, first of all, telling a black person to go back to Africa is rooted in ignorance. It's rooted in racism, and it's a misunderstanding of history. First of all, most black Americans, because of the transatlantic slave trade, when you tell us to go back to Africa, we don't know where we're going because many of us, not all blacks who are in America or in the diaspora, are descendants of slaves. However, the majority of us that are, when you tell us to go back to Africa, where would we go? What language would we speak? It's not the same as if someone is from Guatemala, and you know they're from Guatemala, and you say, hey, why don't you go back to Guatemala? Well, if they had to go back, they would know their language. They would know where. Where? Where would we go? There are what, over 54 countries in Africa? Over 1,500 languages spoken in the continent of Africa? Where would I go, y'all? I don't know. I don't know if I'd go to somewhere in West Africa. Where? What language would I speak? Whose door would I knock on and say, Mama, I'm home? It's ignorant. Also, black Americans are much of a part of the U.S. as any other group. Our ancestors built much of this country's infrastructure, economy, and culture under enslavement. Telling me and other blacks to go back to Africa denies our rightful place in the U.S. and erases our historical contributions. How do you tell someone who built your home, who built your land, white folk, now leave? Your descendants built it. You don't have a right to it anymore. Get the hell out. You know how ignorant and crazy that sounds? It also has racist undertones. This phrase, y'all excuse me, I have a cold, often reflects the belief that black people do not belong in America or that we are outsiders, despite the fact that our presence in the U.S. predates many white immigrants. How about that? It perpetuates the idea of racial superiority, implying that black people should leave while white people, regardless of your ancestry, have a right to claim to the land. What is it about you white folk and land? You're obsessed with it. You've always been. From Europe to everywhere, you were obsessed with land and conquering land and taking land from people and denying those who really rightfully belong to the rights, privileges of it. The ignorance of African history and diversity. Africa is not a monolith. As I mentioned before, it is a continent with 54 countries and over 1,500 languages. Most Black Americans have no direct connection to specific African countries due to the brutal, I repeat, brutal erasure of their and our ancestral histories during slavery. Telling someone to go back to Africa ignores the complexity of African identity and oversimplifies the diverse origins of Black people. You think just because my skin is the same color or close to someone in the continent of Africa, that you could just drop me off at Africa's sweet door and I would just come, they would just know, I would know what to do and how to function. I don't know not one African dialect. Now, I don't fault you for that. Not me, not my generation, because now we have the knowledge, skills, and ability. We can research where we come from. We can learn different languages and all of that. It just takes a lot of money and time. But the original enslaved Africans, remember you told them they couldn't speak their languages because you didn't want them to form and have a bond together. So if the enslaved Africans spoke their African tongue, then you would beat the hell out of them. You didn't want them rallying and coming together. And then you forbid them to use their own names, so you rename them. And that is where I take umbrage. It pisses me off to the highest level of festivity when white folk, you misname us. You all know damn well her name was Kamala Harris. But to disrespect her, you called her Kamala. You all have been doing that since the beginning of time. Renaming something. That's the ultimate sign of disrespect. My name is Angela, not Angie. All right, the trauma of slavery. When you tell us to go back to Africa, the transatlantic slave trade forcibly disconnected Black people from their roots, leaving many descendants with no knowledge of their precise origins. This phrase degrades the deep pain and generational trauma associated with our loss. Do you know how, when my Nigerian friends, I hear them speaking either Yoruba or their language, or my Zimbabwean friends speaking Shona, I'm like, God damn, that's a beautiful thing. It's entrenched in them. Not in me. It's just not. Also, it's when you tell a Black person to go back to Africa, it's exclusionary nationalism. Let me explain what that means. This phrase aligns with xenophobic ideologies that seek to exclude people who are perceived as different. It's a way to marginalize Black people and suggest that we are not true Americans, even though we have been integral in this nation's history and culture. The funny thing is, white folk, many of you hate us, but you want to be us. You want our lips, you want our complexion, you want our figures, you want our men, you want our swag, you want our voices, you want all that it encompasses. However, that is not, I'm doing a live, close my door, please. So even though we had an integral part to play in this nation, you don't want to identify, you don't want to acknowledge it. Also, it's historical hypocrisy, y'all. Many white Americans are themselves descendants of immigrants from Europe and other parts of the world. Telling Black Americans to go back to Africa ignores the fact that our own ancestors came to America, often voluntarily, in pursuit of opportunity. It also ignores the fact that your ancestors came to America voluntarily. I'm sorry, not us, you all, voluntarily in pursuit of opportunity. So should I tell the Irish American to go back? That's crazy. It's also it erases the contributions of Blacks in America. But however, I'm gonna tell you, it does not hurt me when I hear a white person tell me to go back to Africa. Years ago, you know, when I used to hear ignorant whites say that, I would get angry. But now it's like, they're so freaking stupid. Sure, if you got a plane ticket and you can do all the research and tell me where my people come from, do all of that research for me and pay for it, I would gladly go. I want to feel a sense of home because no Black American truly feels at home here in America. We have made do because we are survivors. But it is nothing like being encompassed around a sea of your descendants in Africa. So, white folk, it's just a lesson. When you tell us to go back to Africa, it's making you sound ignorant because you don't understand that we don't know where we're going to go. Thanks to you. Hey, I'm not teaching this to make you mad, white folk. I'm teaching it to open your eyes so you know the truth, because they don't want you to know this in school. And that is why they're fighting so hard to erase history. If my teachings bless you, continue to like, share, subscribe, and follow me. And if it really blesses you, buy a sister a cup of coffee right here where it says, buy me coffee. All right? Talk to y'all soon. Sisters, keep doing what you do. Drink your water, mind your Black business. And brothers, keep on keeping on. Bye.
Thank you guys. As you have seen from the videos, the story often revolves around discussions on immigration, where some people label Black Americans as illegal or outsiders. But when challenged, especially by someone like Quanel X, who doesn't hold back, the narrative flips. A white individual realizes the irony that calling descendants of enslaved Africans illegal in a country built on stolen land and forced labor, that regret moment is a wake-up call. It highlights hypocrisy and forces us to look at the real natives of this land of America and the unbreakable role of the FBAs, that is foundational Black Americans, in shaping the United States. Quanel X is a Houston-based activist who's been a voice for Black communities for decades. He started with the Nation of Islam, became a leader in the new Black Panther Party, and has been on TV leading rallies and helping families facing injustice. He's known for direct, no-nonsense talk on race. In famous debates like one on Fox News years ago, he shut down hosts by pointing out the truth about America's origin. He said things like, "The country belongs to the Indians, Native Americans. You white folks stole it from them." He calls out hypocrisy when people complain about immigrants today while ignoring how European settlers arrived in the United States without permission and took land through violence and broken treaties. In clips circulating recently, some from the 2025 uploads, Quanel X confronts people who say that Black Americans are illegal or parasites. He reminds them that Black ancestors were brought to the United States against their will, built the wealth of USA through centuries of unpaid labor, and have every right to be in the United States. When someone gets the harsh words after that, it's because the truth hits hard. It's a moment of reflection that exposes how misinformation about illegals ignores real history. This teaches us that words matter. When we label people without context, we risk spreading harm. But when confronted with facts, even regret can lead to growth. Before anyone else, the US belonged to the indigenous people, the Native Americans. They were in the United States for thousands of years before Christopher Columbus came in the year 1492. Historians estimate that when Europeans arrived, there were millions of indigenous people across what is now the United States. They were living in diverse nations with advanced societies, trade networks, agriculture like corn, beans, squash, and complex governments. Tribes like the Cherokee, Navajo, Lakota, Iroquois, Confederacy, and many others had rich cultures, spiritual traditions, and sustainable ways of life. European colonization changed everything. Diseases such as smallpox and measles brought by the settlers wiped out huge populations of the indigenous people, sometimes 90% in some areas. Then it came wars, forced removals like the Trail of Tears in the 1830s, where thousands of Cherokee died marching west. Broken treaties and land theft. The US government pushed policies of assimilation, boarding schools that stripped children of language and culture, and reservations that confined nations to tiny fractions of their original lands. Today, there are over 500 federally recognized tribes with nearly 3 million native people. They continue fighting for sovereignty, land rights, and cultural preservation. But the history is clear that this is indigenous land first. Any conversation about who is illegal must start there. European settlers were the original unauthorized arrivals. Let's look at the role of FBAs, the Foundational Black Americans. Now, the Foundational Black Americans is a term that was popularized by figures like Tariq Nasheed. It refers to black people who can trace their lineage directly to those enslaved in the American system of chattel slavery. These are the descendants of the Africans forcibly brought to the United States starting in the 1500s, first recorded in 1526, enduring over 246 years of slavery until the year 1865. Foundational Black Americans aren't recent immigrants. They are the foundation. Enslaved Africans built the economic powerhouse of America, that is cotton, tobacco, rice, and infrastructure, including the rails, the buildings, the White House, the Capitol Hill. The unpaid labor generated trillions in wealth that funded the nation's growth. After emancipation, FBAs faced Jim Crow, lynchings, redlining, mass incarceration, yet they contributed massively. Think jazz, blues, hip-hop, civil rights, Rosa Parks, MLK, Malcolm X, inventions, military service, that is the black soldiers in every war, including the revolutionary, where many fought for freedom they didn't even fully receive. The FBA perspective emphasizes that they didn't go to the US seeking opportunity. They were dragged to the US. They built the US and stayed through hell. Therefore, they aren't illegal or outsiders. They are foundational, literally the base upon which modern America stands. Quanel X echoes this when he defends black presence against anti-immigrant rhetoric. He flips the script. How can descendants of the enslaved be called illegal when the real theft was of land from the natives and labor from Africans? We learn that identity matters. FBAs highlight unique experiences, generational trauma, resilience, cultural innovations. Recognizing this builds pride and pushes for justice like reparations discussions. That white person regretting their words is a microcosm of a bigger issue. Many talk tough about borders and illegals without seeing the irony. That is, America was built on illegal entry by Europeans, genocide of the natives, that is the red Indians who originally inhabited the US, and enslavement of Africans who ended up being the FBAs. The regret shows humanity. People can change when faced with truth, but real change needs more education about Native history, respect for the FBA, for the contribution of the FBAs, and honest talk on race. These are some of the important takeaways from today's video. The first takeaway is that history is very powerful. We should learn the full story about every context that we engage in, not just the sanitized version of a story. Number two, we are not supposed to call people illegal without context. Number three, we should honor the natives as the first people in the US. We should also honor FBAs as builders. They are the one who build most of the structures that currently stand in the US. Also, we should use regret as a starting point for allyship and not division. This topic is kind of deep because it's about it talks about belonging. When you ask a question that is about who gets to claim America, the answer is simple. It's the indigenous land. You can say that America is the indigenous land of the Native Americans who were wiped away and It has been enriched. America has been enriched by the FBS, blood, sweat, and genius. If this resonated with you, kindly like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. Have you seen Quanel X, the clips of Quanel X? And what are some of your big takeaway from today's video? You can comment down this video so that we can keep on the discussions, and kindly please keep the discussions respectful. Let's maintain decorum. Thank you so much. If you are not subscribed to this video, please do me that favor. Also, kindly share this video out. Until next time, God's blessings.